I have studied 1000 rich people to figure out the fastest and the most guaranteed way to become rich. Okay, so I've started by studying Forbes list, and to my surprise the first 2,400 people on that list are all billionaires, and the absolute poorest person is worth $1 billion. Can you believe that? Okay, let's dive deep into that to figure out how do they make their money. The Industrial Revolution has always been tied to wealth. So let's get back in history to see how did that work.
Through such precision instruments as these, our standards of accuracy are being changed.
Back in 1776 in Glasgow, the UK, James Watt invented the steam engine, which literally changed the world. Now everything can be done much quicker and faster. Huge amounts of products can now be manufactured in a significantly short time. As a result, the shipping and manufacturing industries started growing rapidly, and most importantly, the textile industry grew like never before. And that's exactly when Richard Arkwright saw the opportunity. He used the steam engines to conquer the textile and clothing industries. And that's how he became one of the wealthiest men in the UK during that time. A century later, in 1870 to be specific, the Second Industrial Revolution started, but in the US this time, when people managed to find faster and cheaper ways to operate engines and machinery. They started using coal and oil to fuel these new type of engines, the combustion engines. Mr. John Rockefeller controlled almost all oil production, which made him one of the richest men on earth to this day. Shortly after, in 1903, in a shed behind a small house, the first gasoline-powered carriage was invented by the great mechanic Henry Ford, the founder of Ford Motors. The car industry was introduced this year and took over the whole world, leaving Mr. Henry Ford as one of the wealthiest people of that time. In 1950s, the third industrial revolution started, which is called the digital era. The digital revolution was about computers and the internet. And well, the Silicon Valley pioneers were at the top of the wealth pyramid, including Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and many more. It's not clear if the fourth industrial revolution has started yet, but it's definitely revolving around artificial intelligence and robots replacing human beings. And with no surprise, Elon Musk is dominating this era. Almost all of his companies are tech, artificial intelligence related, which crowned him as the richest person in the world this year.
History repeats itself, and if there is one thing that we can learn from the previous part, is every generation there is a new business trend, and people who are able to make money on these trends are people who are willing to adapt and put the effort and time to make the ideas a reality. And that's why sometimes we feel that our parents' advice are not very accurate, because it's usually outdated or from the previous generation. And after digging deep studying those rich people, I figured out that there is a huge difference between millionaires and billionaires. That's why throughout this video, I'll keep millionaires and billionaires on the side to see the differences between them at each stage. How to become rich fast in one day, overnight. Everyone wants to become rich fast, but the reality is completely different than that. On average, it takes 5 to 10 years to become a millionaire. Elon Musk started his first company in 1995 with a $28,000 loan from his dad. 4 years later, he managed to sell the company for $307 million. Another success story is Mr. Beast. He started his channel in 2012. 5 years later, he became one of the first YouTube millionaires. Now, the jump from millionaire to a billionaire is completely different. On average, it takes from 14 to 25 years to change from millionaire to billionaire status. However, one man managed to break all records, the fastest billionaire ever, Jay Walker. In 1997, during the dot-com bubble, Jay Walker saw the potential of the internet and started his own company, Priceline.com, a website where you can book flights, hotels, and car rentals. He started with a small office and just 10 employees,
And on the launch day, the website attracted so many customers until both servers crashed. 1 year later, on March 30th, 1999, the company went public. In other words, IPO. And everyone was fighting to buy a piece of this company, seeking the bright future. The IPO made Jay Walker a billionaire. The Priceline.com company that was created back then is what we know today as Booking.com.
Okay, I've just realized that probably I will never be a billionaire. However, being a millionaire is actually not as hard as it seems to be. There are 4 common ways to reach the $1 million mark. The first one is, of course, inheritance. And it's so easy, so I'm not going to even go through that. The second way, which is the most common way, is through the corporate ladder. However, that's definitely not the easiest way to go.
27% of top managers in the top companies have accumulated at least $2 million in their senior years. However, the competition is crazy. Let's put that in perspective. If a new startup company is to launch, a company that's aiming to be a mid-sized company in the future, something similar to Skechers, for example, on average 1,000 skilled people will apply for the job to be hired, and 800 only will be selected. However, 500 of them will stay for the next 3 years. Only 100 of them will stick long enough to get promoted, and only 10 of those 100 will become head of their departments, and just 2 of those will get promoted again to the top tier, and those 2 will be the ones who will probably be millionaires. However, on average it takes around 10 to 15 years to reach $1 million, so definitely not the easiest or the fastest way to go.
Being the most talented in some kind of profession or sport will definitely guarantee a faster way for you. However, it's full of obstacles.
Michael Jordan, for example, is the richest athlete alive with a net worth of $2.1 billion. MJ spent 10 years playing basketball professionally at high school until he got drafted by Chicago Bulls in 1984 and landed his very first 6-figure contract. And it doesn't stop here, since 78% of athletes go bankrupt in just 3 years if they don't invest their money properly. Allen Iverson, for example, despite of having a very successful career in the NBA, he lost his wealth in just 2 years after his flashy spends.
But if you're an average person like me with no rich family, then bad news is you have the hardest way to go. But good news is you have the most guaranteed way to become a millionaire. 80% of the world's richest class are self-made, either through their businesses or enterprises. Let's agree that the holy grail, our ultimate goal to be rich, is to generate passive income. But to analyze all of that, we have to reverse engineer the process. Let's go backwards. The biggest player in generating passive income is real estate, and how Donald Trump said, real estate is the core of almost every business. It's certainly at the core of most people's wealth. But the fastest way to own real estate is actually through successful businesses. Back in the day, successful businesses were restaurants, hotels, and grocery stores. And it stayed like that for a long time. However, that's not applicable anymore. The new businesses now are the type that requires minimum expenses, and that's by reducing the number of people involved and any physical presence. For example, instead of taxi companies, now it's Uber that connects taxi owners and users. Instead of restaurants, it's delivery apps and ghost kitchens. It's not hotels anymore, it's Airbnb that doesn't own any properties. And the list goes on. Apple started using this business model in 2005, and they have outsourced the whole manufacturing process to China. And that resulted in lowering the product's prices and skyrocketed their profit margins. And that's what's called sweatshops. It's a completely dark, different topic that I don't want to go through right now. However, all big companies of today, they are using sweatshops to maximize their profits. Another thing that you have to consider to have a successful business is having a huge consumer base. And Elon Musk knew that really well. In 1999, he launched his second company, X.com.
And create a new company.
So this is an ATM. What we're going to do is transform the traditional banking industry.
And his idea was to revolutionize the banking industry. He described the banking industry at that time of being rich and dumb. When X.com went live, he was giving away $20 cash cards just for signing up, and $10 for every person that they refer to. Elon Musk ended up signing more than 200,000 people in the first days. Elon Musk understood one important thing. Lots of users equals lots of money. And that forced some of his competitors at that time to spend $100,000 per day on promoting their new services. It was basically a fight over the number of customers.
Now we know that business is the key to be rich, but to be super rich, you must have multiple businesses, because that will generate multiple income streams.
Kim Kardashian, for example, has her clothing brand Skims, KKW Beauty, KKW Fragrance, Sky Partners, Kimoji, and so many more businesses. Also, Charli D'Amelio launched a clothing line, The Social Tourist, a fragrance brand called The Born Dreamer, and a phone editing platform called Light Tricks. And the same concept of multiple income streams apply to almost all millionaires. And trust me, all these successful millionaires with the nicest cars, dream homes, and the life that me and you are dreaming to have, they didn't make it from the first shot. After studying all these millionaires, I've realized that on average, they fail 3 to 5 times before they make it. Mark Cuban, the owner of NBA's Dallas Mavericks, one of my idols by the way.
I paid $285 million for the Dallas Mavericks.
Mark Cuban started his first business, a small bar in Indiana. And the bar got shut down when he got busted for letting a 16-year-old in unintentionally. And in 1981, he got fired from 3 different jobs, and he quit the 4th one because of his manager. Cuban moved to Texas to launch a company that sells powdered milk, which failed, until he finally got a job at a computer company as a salesman, but he also got fired.
One day, I had a great sale I could close. I was going to make a $1,500 commission. And I called up Michael Humecki and I said, I want to go close this deal. It's great sales and it's a great commission for me. He goes, no, you have to open the store. I got to close this deal. So I blew him off, went and closed the deal, fired me. Fired me on the spot.
Finally, he started his first successful business, Micro Solutions, and that made him a millionaire. Mark Cuban said, it doesn't matter how many times you strike out. To be a success, you only have to be right once. One single time, and you are set for life. Today, Cuban is worth $5.1 billion. And if there is one thing that you should learn from this story, it will be that the key of success is persistence. Now you have a successful business, it's time for IPO. IPO stands for Initial Public Offering, and it's equivalent of going viral on social media, but in the business world. In simple terms, when the business owner decides to sell the whole company or part of it to the public. And this is a very common move that has been done by business owners who are looking for quick cash. The date is May 1997. The CEO of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, decided to take the company public. The company issued 3 million shares and sold at share price of $18. Jeff Bezos sold 59% of the shares and kept only 41%, pocketing around $22 million in just one day. Another IPO success story is Airbnb. The 3 friends Brian, Nathan and Joe went public with Airbnb on December the 10th, 2020. Few hours after the company went public, Airbnb's valuation went over $100 billion, earning the 3 co-founders the billionaire status. However, it's not easy to take your company public because of the long list of requirements issued by the government. And of course, these set of rules and requirements are set to protect its investors. Now you truly have it, the most common ways to become rich. And I will leave you with 2 choices, either to scroll down and watch another YouTube video and keep living an average life, or get up and figure out a plan, stick to it and give it your all until you make it. For me personally, I chose to do whatever it takes to change my life. I give myself no other option but to be rich. So here's my plan. A solid place to start from is creating a YouTube channel to give you some cash to try new businesses. So I've launched another YouTube channel and I'll be announcing the name very soon. And then I will try launching a new business. The idea that's occupying my mind right now is an app similar to Uber, but for a car towing services. I believe it will help people, especially if they can pay online, instead of having to carry some cash on them when the car breaks down. If my app worked, I will try to sell it to Uber and any other similar companies, or even better if I can go public with it. And the revenue from all of that will be divided into real estate and trying new businesses. The video is almost 15 minutes, and if I keep pouring what I've learned in this video, it's going to be hours long. So instead, I highly recommend watching these videos, and remember, stay persistent and change your life.
You know they're coming up to me, cause I'm just the kind of fly